Hello everyone. We're just short of starting the Instagram live today. I promise you this is going to be a fun series. We're going to run across, I think, 3-4 weeks. I have a lot of my friends, a lot of first time authors, first time poets who will be joining us here. And we are going to get you to know them better. Want to come in and
Hi.
just
Hi,
join the
can you hear me well?
storytelling process. Hi Mamta. Hi
I'm
Turiya.
very well. How are you?
Yes, I can. How are you doing? All good. Really excited about today. I couldn't share my excitement, I think,
I'm
over our casual
totally excited.
conversations
This is the
earlier, but
first
this
live
seems
event that
real and
I'm
this
doing
seems
in
fun.
Instagram. So I was so nervous. I was like, have I got it right? And, I've been sitting in front of this thing for the last, I think, 10 minutes. Really excited. Yes.
Oh my God,
Yay.
no way. I'm so
Yeah.
happy. Your first live is with us. So, yay. That's amazing. Absolutely. We're just trying to introduce what this entire concept is to our viewers and our audiences who are going to join us in the live. A lot of them have already started joining
Hi,
us. So, hello to
everyone.
everybody once again.
I see a few
Welcome to our
friends. Hi,
Instagram live.
Sheba. So nice
And
to see you
these
over
are
here. Thank you
two.
for joining.
Absolutely. I think it's so amazing that we have this after hours, and a lot of our friends can join us post work or post the chores at home or picking up and dropping kids to classes. So this is amazing that we've chosen a time which works for most of the people that we know, and a lot of the audiences who are
Hello.
tuned in
Hi.
today.
Green
Hello,
shirts.
hello
TPS.
again.
Nice.
So we have
Green.
a yeah.
I know.
Some of these Insta
I'd
handles are
love to
just
hear the
amazing.
story
I wish I was that
behind some of
creative.
these
What do
handles,
you think?
right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think we'll definitely call them on board as well. But let's kickstart the Insta Live because
Okay.
a lot of our audiences will also catch this as a post-recorded session much later. So let's give them what they've come here for. And so in the beginning, I think let's just introduce the concept of what this is. So both of us have been authors and poets who publish their books with the right order, which is self-publishing in a traditional publishing platform. So let's get to that journey. Let's talk a little bit about our background. So, Mamta, I think a lot of people who've joined in would like to know who you are apart from being this amazing pen name called Turiya. So, I want to know the
Yeah.
origination of that as well.
Thank
But to
you so
start with,
much,
who's Mamta?
Bhargavi. I
Could
think,
you tell us a little bit more about
Mamta
Mamta's
is
daily
this
life?
person who is a management consultant. So during my, management consultant, 25 years working
Oh,
in MBA
wow.
from IIM Calcutta. And I've been, I'm based out of Gurgaon. And, my life is usually full of
Right?
timesheets, supply chain, finance transformation, sustainability, what have you, billing, all of that, right?
Sure.
Managing a bench, managing a business. But I started my writing
Yeah.
journey a few years back. Actually, I always thought I'd be writing a book. And as a young girl, I used to be writing.
Hmm.
But when I started writing more seriously, it all started to happen in the form of a poem,
Okay.
and that was like quite shocking for me, right? And yeah, I chose the pen name Turiya
Okay.
because a
Wow.
lot of the
Okay.
poems that I write are from a state of very very high level of awareness. It's almost meditative, right? So Turiya is the fourth state of consciousness, or the ultimate
Sure.
consciousness,
Wow.
as per Vedantic philosophy, and that's the only state I can write in. I have to be inspired. So I thought, it is so
Right.
different from Mamta, the person, the consultant, the what have you, to a very different personality. So that is my story, but I'd love to hear yours. How
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
writing journey start? And tell me about it yourself.
Thank you so much. First of all, Mamta, kudos to you. I think, first of all, getting words together in the form of prose is hard enough. And then finding this beautiful rhyme, rhythm, and meter, and, encasing them, the words and the ideas as poetry, I think that's just really challenging. So kudos to you. And the pen name Turiya is just sublime. So amazing, amazing to hear the origination of that as well. About me, I think my Instagram profile, for those who follow me, reads as an entrepreneur, an author, and a podcaster. Well, I'm all that, and I feel much more. Like so many of us who have packed so many, ideas and thoughts and passions in us. So by day, let's talk about the day life and the moonlighting. So by day, I run a human resources consulting organization. It's called Excel Corporation. I'm very proud to say it's an all-woman HR organization. So it's helping a lot of women come back to work. That's the kind of organization we wanted to set up. And we work a lot with a lot of, consulting companies, multinationals, Indian business houses, startups. And I'm educated in mass communication to start with. So that passion of creating content and, just working in the space of different media, whether it's radio or blogs or video format of short films, etc., never died down. So when I had an opportunity to do some branding work for my company, I became a podcaster accidentally. And I have a successful business podcast show called People Who Matter. So that is, the extension of my identity happened in the content space through that. But I think when the pandemic hit, that's when a lot of us, I'm sure you definitely have your version of that. We took a pause from, our daily routine life and the 9 to 5 or the 9 to 9 or the 9 to ever that we do. Pretty much took a backseat for just a bit. And we were able to focus on a lot of our thoughts that were in the head. So my very first book was in the nonfiction space. It's called P for Podcast. It's literally a beginner's guide to podcasting. It's from my journey of being a podcaster. And I'm really excited that my second book is out. It just got launched recently on 20th of May, The World of Vishwakarma. You can see him right behind me. This guy came into my life and he's making me write a bunch of series of books on what the world of Vishwakarma is all about. It's for kids and it's also for kids at home.
That's lovely. So I wanted to just introduce you because I see some of my, friends and followers. Ricard Films is the one who shot a lot of my pictures initially. So thank you for joining. And I see Henna, who's also a colleague and a very dear friend, and several of them, Hosanna, Nirmal, everyone's joining. So thank you. This was more for you, an introduction. Thanks for that. Back to you.
Amazing. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. And we're hoping this is a very interesting and a thought-provoking session for all of you. If you have any questions for all those who have joined us, who are with us here, please feel free to put it on the comment box. And within the next 5-10 minutes, we're going to take it forward. We'll address those questions. So both of us are here today in the capacity of being authors or writers of books. And this is a space which is a little tricky in India because it's not like there's a course taught in colleges, right, of how to be an author. And we have literature classes and we have humanities classes, but not a lot of us know how exactly it is that the writing journey begins. So let's start with you, author and poet Turiya. How did your writing journey begin? If you could remember the first few instances.
It's a lovely question. The very first piece I wrote was Why I Can't Write. And it was, it's ironic because, I wrote about why I can't write. Someone asked me, are you a writer? Because you write very well. And I said, no, I don't write because I can't write. And then I wrote down something about why I can't write. And I can't tell you, I actually said, hey, this is not bad, right? And then I started to, observe nature, go on walks, observe myself. And I started to write. And then it was, the initial first few pieces were more prose, free verse, longer. And then as I started evolving on the journey, it started to become crisper and more tighter and very pointed kind of thing. So that was how that was my first piece, and I'm really fond of that piece. And I think, at some point I'll start probably post that. It's not in my book, but eventually I might post it. Yeah. And what about you?
Okay. Amazing. So I think I think the first introduction to most of us who are in the author or the writing space happens to be in our English classes in school. I had some fantastic English teachers, and I was in a convent school, so I was exposed to a lot of William Wordsworth and W.B. Yeats and plays of George Bernard Shaw and Shakespeare and whatnot. And at the same time, in the regional languages, I was learning a lot of poetry and Munshi Premchand stories in Hindi.
I see the same old, the same old poem. I don't know if you did Julius Caesar. That was during my time.
Absolutely.
Bangalore girl, yes.
Absolutely. 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 No, I think nothing much changed. It's pretty much the same context that's set. But I enjoyed actually poetry and writing limericks when I started out. So, William Wordsworth's words, daffodils was like the starting, like, there's an aha moment in your life. And I could imagine those beautiful daffodils and how they moved in the wind while he passed by. So, the minute I got visual about writing, that's when I got very excited about writing. When I could visualize the world that I was creating and I could visualize this beautiful alternate reality that I was, living in. I really fell in love with writing then. I really thought I'm going to become a journalist. So, I was trying to hone my skills in that direction. I was, applying for Columbia and I was doing ACJ and things like that. And then out of the blue, I realized I'm so visual. Maybe I should go into, the art of filmmaking or screenplay writing and things like that. So my attention was diverted when I started pursuing my master's,
Yeah.
and then I did something in mass communication, which kind of gave exposure to everything. There was a lot of writing, but not necessarily in the form of prose or poetry. It was more in the form of script writing, screenplay writing, dialogues, and things
That's
like that. That's what
interesting,
my
because you talked
initial
about
stint
daffodils. I
with
still
writing, I would
remember
say.
that, and there were so many of those. It just takes me back to my ICSE 10th standard, ninth and 10th standard, right? I think then for me there was this beautiful book of
Yes.
poetry called
Yeah,
Palmer's,
yeah.
I think, Golden Book of Poetry, something like that, right? It's a worn out copy. I have it somewhere over here,
Yes.
but that was something which kind
Yes.
of really fueled my love for poetry, right?
Oh,
And then as I started
wow.
reading more and more, I have a couple of favorites.
Amazing.
Ben Jonson is one of my favorites, right? Yeah, and then I started to
Yes, please.
realize that I like
Please do
more
share,
of,
of course.
more of
Yeah,
very
yeah.
soulful poetry, something which is more uplifting, refreshing. I know someone on the chat is asking, have I read
Yeah.
Rupi Kaur? Yes, absolutely. I've read a lot of, Urdu poets, Hindi poets. With my limited,
Yeah, of
I
course.
struggle with reading Hindi, but I've tried to read all of that. But the one poet that's really had a huge impact
Yeah,
on me
yeah.
is Rainer Maria Rilke. I think the kind of poetry which is very soulful, kind of makes you go deeper into yourself and more
Oh,
reflective.
wonderful.
And for me, I think the
Yeah,
journey is, people get a little daunted by poetry, I
yeah,
feel. Because they feel that it is, for those of us who like that old
yeah,
world kind of
yeah,
poetry, it's fine. But a lot of people don't necessarily relate to it, or it gives them the shudders of, having to mug up poems. And
yeah,
sometimes it's a little too difficult as well. So my aim when I
yeah,
started writing also was, how do I capture really
yeah,
deep meaning
yeah,
into poetry, express myself in a manner that is easy to relate to. It talks about
mm,
everyday themes, and basically, you feel good about it, because whenever I read Rilke, I feel really nice, right? It makes me pause, it makes me,
yeah,
calm down and, reflect. And yes,
yeah.
and there's so many things. Look, there's so much of
Think and
stuff going on in
reflect,
the world which is
of
not
course.
nice, right? So I want poetry to be like an escape into
Yeah,
yourself. I think I'm weird, of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
but anyway, since it was the topic of
Oh,
poetry.
wow. How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? Usually, when people talk about escape, right, you're talking about an external area. You're escaping into something else. But I love what you mentioned just now, escaping into yourself. Actually, there's this whole world hiding within us. The creativity is there, the sanctity of thought is there, the sanity of thought is there, and so much more. So
And speaking of
beautifully put.
imagination
No
and,
wonder you're a poet.
running
Look at
to
you.
a world that you create, I think your book and your character, whatever little we spoke about, I mean, that is fascinating. I mean, it's to take it to a level that you have taken, I think
Yeah,
it's delightful. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that as well?
absolutely. I'll do that. Hi, Shival. Welcome to the live, and we'll address your question just after this one. That's a very good question, too. Absolutely. So I think, like I said, I had so many characters running in my head for a very long time because I would write for different formats, and I was always trying to see a format where an extended story could be said. And Vishwakarma was that. I've lived with the thought of this character. He is a technical genius. Like he's a kid of 12 years of age. He loves science. He loves math. Unlike a lot of people I know. But his arch nemesis, or the one thing that gets his grades down, or he hates absolutely, is the subject of history. And he absolutely finds it daunting. Like you said, mugging up poetry, right? For some people, that's daunting. For him, history is daunting for sure. He finds a way through his experiments to travel back in time, and he accidentally lands in one of India's most historic periods, landmark dynasties that kind of built the nation that we're living in today. And he realizes that suddenly he realizes he has the power to start changing history so that he can start deleting things in the past so he doesn't have to study it in the future. And that is basically the context of this entire character of Vishwakarma. The journey of Vishwakarma also for me was to understand certain relationships that are very dear in my life as well. I was trying to put perspective, like I was projecting a lot of relationships and situations and just the observations I've seen in the world around. So how, mothers and sons deal with each other, how friends deal with each other, how, we make enemies in school and we make frenemies in school and things like that. And how does that affect the character that we become? Or also, the kind of characters he meets in history, especially legends of history. How does that affect him, his outlook, his thinking? And does he for a second stop and think that he's doing something wrong or not? So a lot of questions of dilemma, a lot of questions of is he doing the right thing or is it just for laughs or is it just for kicks? There's all that and more in this story, and I think it's a fun read, which is going to be like a page turner. So the early reactions to the book is that it's a page turner. A lot of people have liked it, so I'm excited. I'm really excited about to see the journey of this kid, this character, in the next 4 books that we are planning to, write out and we are trying to, get out to the public out there. But speaking about, I think going back in the past, poetry, like you said, is always connected to the past. And some people I know, I love poetry personally, but I know a lot of people who find it dark or deep or depressing as well. So how do you find the light in this very dark tunnel of this what do I say, the stigma or the dogma of poetry being something too meaningful, too deep, and not for me. I'm just a simple, ordinary person who likes to, just watch something and laugh for a sec, or just read a couple of lines and just
it's a
see a
nice
meme and see a
question.
dialogue
And
and feel good about
when
it.
I started, right, I mean, I did not expect it to be in the form of poems, like I said. I was quite startled. And then, I people said no one reads
Right,
poetry, no one likes
right,
poetry anymore, no one buys poetry, all of that. But I said, this is my expression. It's all right, right?
yeah,
But Bhargavi,
yeah,
when people read it, one is the inertia
right,
to actually
right,
pick it up. But when they pick it up, I think they're startled because they find some of their own
right,
questions and their thoughts actually reflected in very plain language in a very relatable manner, right? Look, a lot of my, dear friends and
wow,
batchmates actually picked it up because I wrote it, right? And I did not expect them to read it. But it's like they opened the first page. I said, just read 1 or 2 poems. I promise you're going to like it. When they started reading, they said, wow,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is,
yeah,
so different from what we'd expected of
yeah,
poetry. And I said, I don't know whether it's poems, free verse, your thoughts, my thoughts, all kind of, expressed. But that is the kind of reaction, right? I mean, they find it very different. And there are several themes, right? Whether it's love, whether it is, hope,
yeah,
whether it is
yeah,
dreams, whether it's death. It's like you're taking a concept or a thought and juxtapositioning it with another thing which is completely out of context. When you join two things, the product that you get is very different. So it's like a lot of out of context things
yeah,
and
yeah,
just a lot of imagination. So
yeah,
it says it's never too late to try something new, right? And I hats off to you. I think writing a novel requires so much of discipline and so much
absolutely.
of hard work. For me, I don't know if I'll ever do it, but for me, poetry, writing a poem is, has to happen
Right.
in a moment of peace and inspiration. And that's why, yeah, there was a question around, what part of it
Oh,
is
that's
most
beautiful.
therapeutic. I think just sitting silently and meditating is most therapeutic because that's when the ideas come in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think the process is daunting for those who have an idea and want to do something about it. Just going to give you a reality check. It's not as rosy and romantic as it comes to it, because I think artists, there's a very favorite line of mine by, in fact, it's in a poem, Paradise Lost by John Milton, and he says, "Doth God deny their labor, light denied?" So it literally, he goes blind because of the incident that happens in his life, the medical condition that the poet goes through. And he is supposed to be supremely talented in writing. And he says, how can God expect me to fulfill my talent and my dream with light denied, without my eyesight given to me? So I often feel like that as an artist, or as any kind of artist, like whether you're a singer or dancer, a poet or an author, I think all of us struggle with that. The
Yeah.
minute you get the idea, you feel frustrated if you're not able to shape it into the perfect words, or shape it into the perfect form and give it out to the world, because you feel, oh my God, how can I do injustice to such a beautiful idea, such a beautiful concept that's come to me. So I think this always stays with me.
Oh
What
my
about you?
God.
What do you think when it comes to the
It's
writing process?
sometimes there've been days when I'm really felt really inspired and it came very naturally, right? I mean, I'd write something and it's perfect. And then there are sometimes I'm just mulling over the idea and I write on my phone. I love stationery. I've got the best of, you see the bookshelf, it's got lots of,
Okay.
good stationery equipment, really nice pens and all that. But finally, when it comes to me,
Yeah,
it's, in a
yeah, yeah,
moment where I'm sitting after dinner, I'm, just doing something, sometimes in the middle of a crowd, and I'm typing away, and then people say, hey, that's so rude. You're on the phone. I'm not on the phone because I'm writing something because an idea has just struck me, right? Sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes you
yeah,
have
yeah,
to really keep at it
yeah,
to
yeah,
bring out the beauty of the idea because the idea is so
yeah,
powerful. It's in your head. And how do you make sure that there's
yeah,
nothing lost in translation from an idea
yeah,
to right? So I find it some days are
yeah,
very very beautiful and sometimes it's like so difficult and I have those insecurities, right? What have they
yeah,
all left me? Have the words left me? And a couple of those are in my book as well. What if the words have all gone,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
I think the different ways of dealing with it. I
Okay,
don't know what your
okay.
mantra
Wow.
is. If you have one, please do share.
No, absolutely. I'm supposed to be someone who has like a process for a lot of things ever since I became like an entrepreneur. I used to be the wild child, and then I became like the taming of the shrew. So if you can, so it's a wide world of difference that hides within me. So when it comes to writing, I think it's a combination of bit of both. I do have a process. I often tell people when they ask me, how do you write, especially when it's a story form. For poetry, I'm sure it's a lot different because maybe the format is shorter and there is a beginning and middle and end perhaps, or just an idea and a beginning, and then you let the reader or the person who's reading the poetry figure out their own way of interpreting it. With prose, I think what happens is sometimes you have to give them the concept, you have to give them the beginning, you have to give them the middle, and you have to give them the end. So because of that, I have a slightly more structured process. I'm not very happy to say as a creative person that I use Excel sheet for this, but I cannot lie. I do use an Excel sheet for basically earmarking what's going to happen in each chapter. So I have like a complete blueprint when I start. So there's an idea, then I
Okay.
write down the characters. I also come from a filmmaking background, so I'm taught to write backstories of characters. So that's when I start. So it starts with the character development,
Yeah.
backstories, because I can find a lot of clues in interconnecting a lot of them as I go forward. But when it comes down to writing the chapters, I actually have my Excel sheet, and I do mention in chapter one, and then I put down bullet points of what might happen, and then chapter two some bullet points, chapter three bullet points. So when I sit down to write, I do try to follow the sequence of one, two, three, four. But sometimes I've seen that I get too excited about the climax or too excited about a certain incident I've already mentioned in the blueprint, and I want to just jump to that and finish writing it, and then come back and connect the dots in chapter two or chapter three.
Yeah.
So I've done that as well. I've done a bit of both, but I think for me, a structured process kind of works. But like I keep saying to a lot of people, how amazing the world would be if all of us could just escape to a chalet in Gstaad in Switzerland, have a glass of champagne, and have the river
You
flow
know,
in front of you in this
you
beautiful
know,
castle that you live in, right? I mean, how
I was
amazing would
reading this
life
very
be, right?
interesting book
Without the
by
responsibilities of
Mason
this
Curry
ordinary world.
called Daily Rituals, and there's a full series, Daily Rituals of professionals working, I think working people. Then there's one thing on artists, right? And then of course there's one on working women or women something. But the one on artists,
Right.
I always imagine like the
Yeah, yeah,
artist's
yeah.
life is beautiful studio, a chalet, river park, nature and all that. So many prompts for inspiration.
Yeah,
But what I figured when I read that book
yeah,
was almost every artist, whether a person is an author, a poet, a ceramic artist, or painter, what have you, they all had day jobs, and they struggled in their day job. Some were rearing 4 children, and then someone was working as a bank accountant or something like that in the basement of some building, and they'd come back and spend 2-3 hours just writing. And it was never a full-time job for most people. In fact, even there were a couple of, I forget the name, but there was one very wealthy landed, one of those gentry kind of person, actually a nobleman, titled guy, person, titled, who had who had a lot of money and a lot of positions, but he would still, he didn't need to work, but basically he did, because that gave him the structure, and then he'd come and spend time writing. So it's amazing, the whole creative process. It's so different from what I imagined it to be.
Oh wow. Absolutely. I think I was fooled for a very long time that you can only write when you're done with everything else in life. Like there should be no other distraction for you to write. And like you rightly pointed out, like you can write in a very crowded room because your brain's active and there's an active idea and you can shut out the noise, right? I think even for me, it's the same. Like you'll have 100 pop-ups on the laptop even after hours in the evening. And you'll have you'll have screaming people in the house, you'll have a dog barking, and you'll have maids coming in and going saying chutti chahiye and all those things. All that will go on in the side, but then you just have to put your mind to it and write what you need to write, or just take that 10 minutes, take that 1 hour away from the rest of the world. For some people, I've heard it works very well, like early mornings. And some people say, I like to write when the house is quiet and everybody's gone to bed. I get the quiet part, I really do, because it helps, hear your thoughts. It's really nice to do that, but I think in practical life, sometimes it's not. So I actually love to play music when I'm writing. So I've got like themes that I play for different, different parts of the work. So it can range from anything, from to be as Indian as possible, from a Bali Sago to an A.R. Rahman to, it can go on to the maestros as well, to jazz, to blues, to just indie pop and 90s pop and God knows what else. So it can go to anything based on what I'm writing, just to get that flavor in and keep me in a happy state, so that the rest of the world can just continue doing what they're doing, but I'll just take my time.
Nice. I could never multitask.
So
I thought I was a very good multitasker. I've realized if I'm listening to music, I can't read or write. Right? It has to be that thing. But strangely, if I'm in a crowd and I'm like meddling with my ideas in my brain, I can zone out. Right? That time I can write, but I can't do two things that I like at the same time. Literally, right? Listen to music or read.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I can imagine. I can imagine. No, I think I think it's great that certain things you just need absolute quiet, and I do shut off the music as well when it's like a real important scene which I have to keep going back to it and reference things and make sure so again because my work is fiction, I have to be very careful in the facts that I present. So, and it's a lot about history, Indian history. Some of it is recorded, some of it is there in public domain. So I've got to be a little careful when I do that. So for all of you who are authors or who are, planning to be writers of poetry, prose and others, I think fact checking is very important. Please do your research. And one more thing I would say to go, one step ahead, please give those links and the web pages and others as references in the back, right? In the end, you must give it in references. So people can actually go and cross check and see if what you're referencing to is something which is factual and okay. So that's something I've learned the hard way, but I think it's a good thing to do that. And when you do that, you have to shut off for sure. I think our publisher joined sometime back. We've had Arpit on the chat. Okay, Arpit, give us a wave if you're still there. I think he was there briefly. So let's talk about your journey with the Right Order, because after all, this is the Right Order Connect that we're on.
I think it's like if it's preordained, it's going to happen, right? And that's exactly what happened. Many years ago, I went on the Mansarovar Kailash Yatra. And when I wanted to, there was the Isha group, which kept popping up, right? I mean, no matter where I looked. So when I was thinking of publishing, the Right Order kept popping up everywhere. Okay. And I'm a big believer of synchronicity and, signs from the universe or what have you. There's part of me which is a very rational brain, but there's part of me which is even smarter than the rational brain, right? Which is what I think, which is to take the messages of the universe and, you know, and say that there is a coincidence.
Nice.
So I called up Niket.
Yeah.
And he was very helpful. And then after that, the whole process was very smooth. Except I took my own sweet time to put together. You know, I had written about, I think, 100 poems, and then I had to curate all of them. And then so they were very helpful for first-time authors in terms of giving the guidance and the whole follow-up and how it works. Then of course there's Arpit and there's Sharfa. You know, the whole team is really nice. And what I like about the team is they're very young, right? And there is something about being willing to explore new ideas and showing that level of you know, enthusiasm and dedication and just, you know, experimenting, which I think was very, very nice. And even now, you know, working with them is an absolute pleasure. I don't know what's going to work, what's not. You know, it's a tough journey. I think being a writer, you know, poet or whatever it is, you know, creative journey. But it's fun. I mean, the idea is to have fun, right? I don't know what your experience has been, but I'm absolutely, you know, they're like now friends.
Absolutely. 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 No, that's amazing to hear. You're right about the synchronicity or the serendipity, as we say, because my journey was slightly different. So what happened is when I wrote my first manuscript, it was a full manuscript which was ready, and I was ready with this non-fiction book called P for Podcast. I think it was at that time I was calling it P means podcast or P stands for podcast or something like that. That's what I was intending, the original title. And during COVID, the first lockdown had happened, the second lockdown had not started yet, but the world was still being very cautious. So I started reaching out to a lot of the publishers. And I'm a first-time author. I didn't have really big connects in the publishing industry. So I started reaching out to a lot of them who I knew through the business circles. So I knew a few guys at Penguin Random House. I knew a few people at Westland. At that time, it was a different entity, not part of Fertility and Right Order. And I knew a few people from, I think, a few other platforms as well, Juggernaut and others. And I was in the process of sending my manuscript out to people. And I was, you know, just like signing NDAs and sending out the details. And my husband actually is connected to the Pratiliti group, the parent of the Right Order. And this entire journey actually happened thanks to him. So he represents them legally. And he's a partner at a law firm as well for media tech. So he told me, he's like, why are you, you know, going to so many people and you're a first time author? These guys are a young publishing house. You know, the synergy is just everything. Why don't you look at it? Why aren't you seeing it? And I was like, yeah, I mean, sounds good. But since I was already, you know, sending my manuscript to all these traditional publishing houses, I was like, oh, okay, I'll just wait for them to come back and things like that. And one thing led to another. I think the way the pandemic panned out, a lot of people delayed responses, a lot of feedbacks came late, and you know, we were just hanging and waiting there. So in that interim period, I just said, okay, I'm just going to send my manuscript and let me get in touch with the team. So through my husband Gautam, I got in touch with, you know, people at the Right Order, and I was in touch with Niket, same person you interacted with. And Niket was just lovely, and he, you know, pretty much pitched it the way it is. And he was like, we would love to have you on board. Nothing has been written about podcasting in India. This is great opportunity. Let's launch it together and stuff like that. And I was like really, really happy. For a first time author, you know, somebody showing belief and trust in you when you yourself are in shaky grounds at times because you're like, I'm a corporate professional. I know that world very well. I like to write, but I don't know if I'm a good author or a good writer. And, you know, you need an editor to tell you that. And you need someone else more intelligent and smarter and professionally capable than yourself to tell you that. So I was very, very happy with the way they received the book and they worked with me throughout. In fact, the cover page and other things, that is basically the highlight of People Podcast. Anyone who catches it on Amazon would see this bright orange color cover with this mic as the P and things like that. You know, very, very nicely done. And the illustration team, kudos to them. So they pretty much started me on that journey. So when I thought of the world of Vishwakarma and this series, I really didn't think of any other publishing house. I didn't even like bother reaching out. So by then, Penguin and a few others had become friends because I was showcasing them on my podcast, People Who Matter. And so it didn't matter to me. I was like, you know, this friendship is really good, but when I trust a publisher, it's going to be
I think it's a great thing, right? Because for me, I didn't know and I
so
didn't have time. I was in a very busy stage of my life and I didn't even have a manuscript. I'm happy to admit it now.
Yeah.
But when I contacted, I didn't have a manuscript. They said, you know, do you have? I said, yeah, I have, you know, I had these poems, 100 in various stages on my iPhone, on my iPad and all that stuff. But one thing is I did not even reach any of the publishing. I didn't have a manuscript and therefore I did not know who to go to and I didn't have time, right? So for me, this was like a signal and that's how I started. And I must thank a lot of people friends, Karma Spark Yoga, Vipul Desai, all of them helped in designing the. See, the other thing is I was very clear what I wanted, right? So you also don't want a publisher who's going to steamroll you into what your book should be in order to help sales. So they give you that freedom, which is what I like. So I was very, in that sense, prescriptive. And because these are poems, right? You change something, one para to the other, you add something, it changes the whole meaning. So the integrity to the author's or the poet's, idea, I think that is something that they maintain, right? So it's a good balance of guidance and not being overbearing, right? So that's very important, I feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, on that note, I would love to hear something you have written because I'm dying to actually hear it from the horse's mouth, literally. I have already ordered my copy of The Vast Empty. It seems like a wonderful book. I love the cover. And now that I
thank you so much.
I think I love the persona that you have. A great vibe for sure. So
I'm gonna, and we spoke about some of the themes, right? Imagination and what would happen, right? So a lot of the poems in this book, this is the book, right? I'm very particularly happy about the cover, and thanks Vipul for the cover and the help with this. I'm going to read a poem, and I have this bookmark, which is like a dried leaf, which is my favorite. Yeah. So I'm going to read. It goes with me everywhere. I'm going to read a poem called Death. Right? It is not. It's imaginative. I think there are some topics which we don't necessarily talk about, but here's the take. Death. I wake up from my dream incomplete. Okay. I left behind parts of me in my dream, like markers in the vast labyrinth, stretching beyond into the ancient and into another realm. Knowing that sleep will bring me back to the exact same point to restart, to chart my next life. So is this how we die? Do we willfully disintegrate, slowly and subtly, leaving behind parts of ourselves across space and time, when the mind dissolves in sleep and when we travel in our dreams? So
wow, that is so beautiful. Oh my God, oh my God. I was actually, like I said, I'm very visual, so when you were talking about it, I was in different realms, just traveling and thinking of what you said.
I think it's more the whole imagination, it's like, that's what I said, we take some topics and how do you give a very different twist to it. There's one other thing that I do want to, we spoke about words, right? And this is one of my favorites. I'm going to bear with me, please. So words. The words, they stood silently at the edge of the precipice.
Of course.
Beautiful words, profound and independent. Some were overpowering with their potency, others simple and elegant, and some just humble and tiny. They jostled and arranged into formation. And when the wind blew right, or the moon lit up the night, or when rain fell to earth on a night heavy with the fragrance of jasmine, the words launched themselves as lyrical poetry and flew into a waiting heart. That heart, was it yours? So, I hope the poem is simple enough. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. My gosh. Intertwining nature, raindrops, flying into someone's heart. I mean, beautiful. I really like the way you think, and my respect for you is so much more today. I've read your corporate book
It's a mutual admiration society, and I'd love to hear more from you. Why don't you read us something from your book as well?
Words you've written.
That would be very nice.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after that, I just want to take a moment to, soak that in because poetry has that effect, right? Unlike prose, I mean, it hits you somewhere inside and you're like, my gosh, this is so beautiful. So, okay, I can't wait to read the rest of Vast Empty myself. I can't wait to do that. But I'm going to reach out to you if I want to understand, what were your thoughts when you were writing something specific? I'd love to know if you were in a frame of mind or, there was something going on that kind of affects the way you write. Is that true for poets?
Real life imagination. I mean, it's like Yeah, real life inspiration. Sometimes it's your experiences, and then you give it a twist at the end, like words. I kept thinking, how do poems write themselves? It's like big words, small words. So this
Yeah.
was for me
Yeah.
like all these words jostling. I mean, so I don't know. It's imagination. It's sometimes real life. Sometimes it's, as they say, poetic license, right? I think this is a very good example of poetic license. There are many like this, right? So it's I've taken
Poetic
things
license.
around air. I've talked about rain. I've talked about day,
Sure.
and there's one poem called The Full Circle, which is my absolute favorite, one of my earlier ones. I have taken and given personality parts to each of the day part, right? So dawn is a young girl, morning is like this, very
Oh,
energetic,
beautiful.
you know, very young, energetic man. Afternoon is a sulky teenager. Dusk is like a matronly woman, and night is this total seductress, right? So, don't ask me how this comes to me, but it's just
Ah,
anyway. But listen, enough
beautiful.
about the about vast empty. Why don't you read a little bit from Vishwakarma?
Beautiful. Okay, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the vast empty is really something that's going to stay with me. But this guy here, Vishwakarma, is someone who's in my mind and thoughts these days. So, as some of you know, or most of you know, the world of Vishwakarma, the first book, A Hack into the Past, has just been launched. We are live on Amazon and offline stores and online stores and everywhere else. But this kid is a fun kid who's going to get into a lot of trouble, and he's going to learn some life lessons out of it, and at the same time understand the true, I would say, intensity of the world that he is, venturing into. So this is a part of the book. It's from a very interesting chapter of the book. And just to give you some context before I start reading, because it's, some from somewhere in the middle. Vishwakarma has traveled back in time, and he's been caught by these armed soldiers. He has no clue where he is. He can't understand the language that they're talking to him in. And they pretty much lock him up in this dingy, dark cell, a prison. And Vishwakarma is pretty much searching for light or any kind of semblance of something living. So he feels safe again. He's a boy of 12, so you can imagine what's going on in his head. So suddenly he does, hear a sound, and he's whooping in the air. So that's where we start this entire prose journey. So feeling a sense of relief, Wish gave a loud whoop. The sound echoed all around the prison cell, and there was a loud scream in response to this. Wish almost fell down in shock after hearing a sound from within his cell. In his fear earlier and the happiness of being understood at present, he had not once stopped thinking that there was someone else in this prison cell. Worse, could it be an animal? He cautiously backed away to a corner and stared ahead. He heard movement and saw a shape slowly getting up from the ground. The shape moved forward, and as the torchlight fell upon it, Wish realized it was a man. He looked old and ragged. He had long hair which was matted and peppered, and a beard that touched his stomach. His body was thin, and his stomach seemed stuck to his back, perhaps due to starvation. His eyes were twinkling despite his condition, and Wish was dumbfounded in confusion. And the shock of seeing another person in the cell made him temporarily mute, despite his best efforts to scream or form words. As the man approached Wish, his face came into focus. Wish, or Vishwakarma, had an uneasy feeling about him. He seemed strange yet familiar. There was something about the man that he couldn't look away from. The man looked at Wish and said the word Udastita. The man said the word accusatively at first, and then repeated the word over and over again in a confused manner as he looked at Wish from head to toe. With a slow movement, the man lifted his fingers and indicated Wish to come forward. Wish felt a strange sense of kinship with him and moved forward and did as he was told. The man looked at Wish and said another word, Avabud. Wish blinked his eyes in response, and he had no clue what was being told to him. The old man came closer to Wish's face and said the word again, Avabud. He tried miming the words again, and Wish gathered that he was asking for something circular or round. He looked around the cell and saw a rock. He brought it to the old man, and the old man tossed it out of Wish's hand and repeated, Avabud, Avabud. He put his hands in his pocket, and that is when he touched a circular round object in his pocket. He took out the shiny brass compass from his pocket. The old man's eyes lit up as soon as he saw the compass, and he jumped up and down like a young boy, saying, Our Bud, Amitragata, Kautilya, Mayakritam.
Wow.
Vish laughed at
Now I
the
want
old
to
man.
hear more. I have to buy this book. I wish you were writing when I was a kid growing up, and the only option was Famous Five and other Enid Blyton kind of books. I really wish. This is very nice, very very
Enid
nice.
Blyton, yes. The world of Enid Blyton.
Is there a series? I'm sure, right? That is because this is not going to be enough. No one's going to stop at one, right? They're going to ask for more.
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So this is the first of, I think, a 4 or 5 part series that we're planning. This is the first book. It's called A Hack into the Past. But the series itself is known as The World of Vishwakarma.
It is so fast-paced and riveting, right?
So,
I mean,
yeah,
you had, I'm sure, everyone in the audience also was pretty riveted about, what happens next, right? Those words and everything. It's really nice. Kudos to you. No,
Thank you.
I'm absolutely
so much. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much, because in prose, trying to create that
this is really nice. This is
wonderful.
Kudos to you. It's really great. So, what is the response been from your most avid fans, and what is the age group that's really this has a lot of appeal to? Yeah.
Reading the book better. Sure. So I aimed actually, so the inspiration for the book also came from my nephews and nieces who would not go to sleep easily, and you had to tell them stories, and my sister and my sister-in-law had enough. So they were like, you can take care, please go ahead, try your luck. But I realized that age group was something that I was targeting initially when I wrote the book. But by the time I finished the first book, I realized it's actually for everyone. So you can start if you're an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 6-year-old who's an avid reader. But you can take it all the way to your parents, your grandparents, your uncle, your aunt. Anybody who wants to read can read this. The fun feedback that I've got so far, I think 2 of them are very close to my heart. One was from someone who I respect a lot in the literary field, and they mentioned that my book was a page turner, and I was like, yes, I cannot believe that happened. This is amazing. And the other feedback actually came from someone who is very close to me, but very, very critical in general, my best friend. And she told me this book needs to be a movie. So I was like, oh my God, you made my day. So that's all.
That's lovely. So it's like the next Harry Potter series, hopefully, really right?
Yeah.
Of course. So tell me,
maybe India's version of
tell me one question I had is, apart from Vishwakarma, who is your most favorite character in this book?
Actually, the I don't want to reveal that, because that is basically the historical element. The legend that he meets happens to be my real life hero as well. And his legendary book is something that I have referred to. I'll give you a clue in economics, and that's all I'm going to say. So this is a character he meets back in the past, and he's supposed to be someone who's the smartest man that walked the earth in that period of time. So if you read the book, you'll know who it is. But apart from that, I love actually the character of Vish's mom. It reflects, I think I've combined a lot of women I know in the character of Vish's mom, because it's so funny. Vish hates history, and his mom is a history teacher in his own school. So she constantly, feels this pit in her stomach that my son hates my subject. My son disregards.
What was your relationship to history? Did you like history as a kid?
So I'm exactly opposite of Vishwakarma. I actually like all subjects, and history was one of my favorite subjects. So I always wanted to write a book in a way where probably kids would fall in love with history. So that was probably somewhere the intention of writing this book as well. So they would love it as much as I loved it.
I think
and I still do.
We're both on a mission.
But yeah,
you to get kids to like history, and me to get people to like poetry or start reading poetry. So good luck to us. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. Good luck to us. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you should share.
Yeah, so the book is available in 13 countries on Amazon. So you can order this. It's available on Prime. It's called The Vast Empty by Turiya. I write under the pen name of Turiya. It's available in some of the airport stores and some of the bookshops in, if you're in Gurgaon, Delhi, I think it's available in Bahari Sons and some of the other bookshops across the across cities. But definitely, I think Amazon is a great place to go and order, and you'll get it in a day. And please, I'd love for you to support this and read and see if you find your voice or parts of yourself. Discover the child in you or the divinity in you. That's the dedication. I think I can get it. Look, I mean, I dare say, and it's like a small audience, I hope, but I think everyone will find a poem or at least 5 poems that they can relate to. I feel, right? Because I've had some really, completely non-fiction, basically people who just don't relate to poetry, right? And they have picked it up and they have said, "Wow." So it's startling. So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, it's there on Amazon. Please go check it out.
No, that's amazing. Amazing. Like you said, you're on a mission to get people to, back to poetry and fall in love with the written word. And
Yeah.
what better way than poetry? It's something that stays with you. It's a short format. You don't have to
Actually,
spend
yeah.
too much time reading it, but take a
Actually,
lot of time to
more than
analyze
the
it
poetry,
because
I think, poetry
don't
is
know
a
which
means.
door
It's
in your heart
most
is that open up.
about discovering parts of ourselves which we've forgotten, right? The wonder, the awe, the amazement, and some of the deeper questions that we ponder
Absolutely.
about.
Absolutely.
It's not spiritual. Maybe it's
Yeah.
somewhat connected to divinity, and mystical is what I would say. And what about you? I know you've been doing a lot of book signings, so your books are available everywhere,
Absolutely.
right? And I saw
Yes.
something on Higginbotham's as well on your yeah. So
Yeah.
tell
So,
us where it's available across cities. Where can I buy it in
yes.
Delhi, Gurgaon?
Yes, that's right. Sure. Absolutely. So it's been 10 days since the launch of my second book, which is The World of Vishwakarma. And this guy, he's available also on Amazon. You can buy it from Amazon, Amazon Prime. He's available in 12 plus India, which is 13 countries.
Yeah.
You can find a Kindle version of the same. I'm sure the same is true for your book as well. He is available on offline stores. Right now, we are already out in distribution in North, South, East, West. You can check out Crosswords, you can check out Odissi, you can check out Satna Book House if you're in the south part of India, which is Bangalore, Bahari and Sons in Gurgaon, Himalaya Book House in Hyderabad. We're also available in all the Higginbotham stores. They've been the kindest, oldest bookstore in India supporting our book. Nothing better than that. So we've had a lot of the other stores in Bangalore specifically. If I talk about Church Street, is our mecca of books and bookstores, and we're available almost in all the bookstores there as well. But for all our friends who are more used to the digital age and like to order books online, which is a little more place, and you can get it there. And for all those who want to read it digitally, Kindle is your place as well. So the book's been going good. It's been 10 days. We've already started climbing charts in Amazon ranking. So do support us. Please share some reviews. Would love your reviews of the book on Amazon. Buy it, read it, share your feedback. I think for both of us, you can please start following our Instagram handles so you can be in touch with us. We can tell you how to get in touch with Right Order, or we can just guide you if you want to be an author or a poet, or just want to share your thoughts, musings with us. We're happy to
It's
hear that as
being
well.
Turiya.
So Turiya, what is
It's
your
being Turiya.
Instagram
That's my
handle? Would you like
Instagram
to share?
handle. I'm also reachable at beingturiya@gmail.com. And on my look, it's a recent journey for me as well, and I'm trying to grapple myself, get my hands around all of this. For a lot of people who didn't know, this is really my very first live Insta event. So thank you so much. I couldn't have found a better partner than you, right? So please reach out. You'll
So
find a lot of
happy. It's happened
poems
with
and see
me.
if they're to your liking. There are a couple of recitations. I've just started the whole journey. I've only now found a little bit of time, and maybe in the next 3 months get a little more active. There is a second book of poems that there's still a lot of poems that have not seen light of day yet. So when I get to it and when I find the time, I'm going to compile that as well. So it's not the end. It's such a long journey as, yeah.
Absolutely. As your newly converted, absolutely. As a newly converted fan, we can't wait for the next book to drop. So do drop it quickly, and can't wait to get hold of the first book, The Vast Empty, and read more about it. For all those who want to connect with me, follow me. I'm also a podcaster and of course an entrepreneur. You can reach me on creator_BE. Bhargavi is my name, so BE. Yeah, trying to be cool. Go figure. Instagram only gives you so many options in cool names, but here you go. And you can also reach me on LinkedIn as Bhargavi Swami. Excel Corporation is my company. I stay in Bangalore for now, but I'll be in Bombay very soon. I'm actually visiting Pan India, doing a book signing tour right now. So I will be in different cities in the next 3-4 months. We've already finished Chennai last week. It was a great, great successful stint. We're heading to Hyderabad next and then Mumbai. So I'll keep you posted. You can follow us on our stories. Both of popping up in your feeds if you follow us. And yeah, do Instagram us, DM us, or you can reach out to both of us on LinkedIn. She has a great corporate profile. You must follow her. She's definitely a woman leader.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, my handle is different. I go by Mamta Chandar on LinkedIn. So yeah, two personalities. So I keep toggling between that. Wonderful. All the best for your book tour. And I'll probably follow you around as well. Bhargavi, my book tour is supposed to start off the moment I get some time, probably in July. So I'm taking my own sweet time, as you can see. So plenty to learn from you. It's been wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to it. Please. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
thank you so much.
it's my home city as well, so definitely.
Bangalore. If you're coming here, you've got to give me a shout out.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Bye.